So, welcome Richard Nicholls.
Thank you.
Thanks ever so much for coming along today and meeting our wonderful group here in Tamworth.
Thank you all.
So, Richard is going to be speaking about hypnotherapy, self-esteem, and we're very much looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I've made a few notes, which I'll give everybody a little copy of the things that I've been waffling on about as well today. What I've tried to do is I've tried to group, because self-esteem is quite a big thing, and in essence, your self-esteem is the way that you judge yourself, the way that you think about yourself. We could go on for books and books and books, pages and pages of different things to do to boost your self-esteem, but I've tried to pick up what I think is probably the 4 most important parts. Number one, what have I put there? I've put be nice to yourself. Now the reason I mention this is because when you've got a glass of water here, there's a couple of cups of water, bottles of water and things like that. If I was to knock one over, are you okay with swearing? Or shall I bleep it out?
Bleep it.
Okay, I'll bleep it out. If I was to knock over a cup of water, would you call me a bleeping idiot? So if I accidentally knocked over a cup of water, I'd hope that you wouldn't be so rude as to call me anything.
No.
But what would you do if you knocked your own over? If you knocked it off to yourself? Would you say that to yourself? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Look at this. I can't even carry a cup of water. What's the matter with me? I'm an idiot. Arr! And unfortunately, the brain listens. If you wouldn't talk to somebody else like that, and you wouldn't expect anybody else to talk to you that way, we shouldn't be talking to ourselves like that. We need to be nice to ourselves, because this is what's going to contribute to somebody having lower self-esteem if you treat yourself like you are worthless. So treat yourself like you are worth something, even if you don't at first believe that you are. If there's a part of you that thinks, well, I am an idiot. Nobody wants to know me anyway. I'm no good friend to anybody. Pretend that you are for a little while. And let's see if we can sort out some evidence that proves to you that actually you're a decent person. When I say be nice to yourself, within that, I mean, you mentioned earlier on about making sure nutrition is important. Eating healthy. If anybody here with children, you'd make sure that they did. Make sure you do that to yourself as well. I'm constantly saying to my son, you know, oh, I'll put some cucumber in your lunchbox, put some grapes and some strawberries in your lunchbox, make sure you eat them. I need to practice what I preach as well, and lately I've been trying to eat a bit healthier lately, and I'm noticing, so I do feel a bit healthier, I do feel a bit more alert. So, Karen, as a nutritional therapist, you're right. Everything you've been saying is true. It does make a difference, so I would heartily recommend it. And do things that you enjoy. If there's something you enjoy, such as lately, I've realised I've not been doing something that I really quite enjoy. 2 things in particular. One is the guitar that I really enjoy playing, and I've just not had a chance to pick it up. So I thought, oh, I'm going to say no. I'm not going to do that hoovering now. I'm going to play the guitar just for 10 minutes, and it was only 10 minutes every couple of days. But it does make a big difference. Yes, it makes a big difference to the skin on your fingers as well. But there's a psychological, oh, I can do it. I can do this. I didn't think I could. I was struggling with that chord, and now I can actually do it, and it's quite nice. And the other thing is reading books. I really enjoy reading books. And so for 8 years, because my son's nearly 9 now, I'll be reading to him. Constantly reading to him, because that was my job as a dad. I read books, because my wife's she doesn't like books that much. She's getting back into them now as an adult, but I really enjoy books. I was reading to him, reading Harry Potter and things like that, which are phenomenal stories. So jealous. This woman wrote such amazing books. Now my son's old enough to read them himself, so twiddling my thumbs. Well, he doesn't need me anymore. What shall I do? I'll read my own books. So I've been to the library and I've got some books. And in the last couple of 3 weeks, I've read about 6 books on my iPad, page after page after page. This is great. Almost been ignoring my wife. She doesn't care. She doesn't mind. She wants some silence from time to time, rather than listening to me going blah 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 blah. So it's nice for me and for my wife and for my son, really, to not be messing about. I'm just sitting reading a book. It's been really nice. So I wholeheartedly recommend that if there's something you do enjoy doing, no matter how small and simple you might think that it is, do it anyway. Because for a lot of small things, no matter how simple, a couple of press-ups or sit-ups or something like that, if you want to sort your abdominals out, which I've been wanting to do lately, do it then. Just do 5. Okay, I'll do 5. If you do 5, a couple of weeks later you'll be able to do 10. And then hopefully, what am I up to at the minute? I'm up to 30 before I go, you just stop now. I'll be able to do 40 soon. These things take a little bit of time. If there's something that you want to do, no matter how big the goal is, there are always tiny steps that get there. So make sure you're aware of that. The second thing I wanted to talk about is an exercise called the mirror exercise, and it's something that I read in a book by an author called Richard Nicholls, spelled with one L as opposed to my name, which is two, and it was quite profound when I read it, and I did hear her talk about it on a radio interview as well, not so long after I'd read it, and I thought, that was one of those moments, and I'll tell you it word for word pretty much. Obviously, quite simple. You do it when you're on your own. Make sure there's nobody else in the house to listen to what you're doing, because it is private. And you go to a mirror and you look at yourself in the face and you say 3 sentences to yourself. First one, you say your name and you say, I'm proud that you. And you look at yourself in the eyes and say, Richard, I'm proud that you. And then you say something about yourself that you are proud of, no matter how small. Even if it is, I'm proud that you got out of bed this morning, because there have been times maybe that you couldn't. So, I'm proud I got out of bed this morning. Richard, I am proud that you read that book. I'm proud that you took some time to look after something that you thought was important. Whatever it is, tell yourself that you're proud of yourself. If you can come up with 5 or 6, maybe even 7 things every day, even if they're the same things, it doesn't matter. And no matter how small, I'm proud that you, and you do that. The second one is, this is where it starts to get you here, well, it got me anyway, is I forgive you for. You look at yourself in the eyes in that mirror and you say, in my case, Richard, I forgive you for, and be honest with yourself. If there's something that you do need to forgive yourself for, we're all human, we've all got weaknesses. If there's something that you've done that you feel guilty about, forgive yourself for it. No matter how silly, forgive yourself for it. Get enough times in there that you are forgiving yourself. Right in the eyes into the mirror. It really makes a big difference. It's ever so good. And the third one does get you, because this is what moves you forward. You say your name, Richard, I commit to you that. And you talk about the things that you want to commit to yourself. I commit to you that you'll do some extra abdominal exercises, or whatever it is that you feel you need to do. I commit to you that I will look after your body. I commit to you that I will give you opportunities to read the books that you want to read. Whatever it is you want to do, I commit to you that. And then at the end, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, yes, I am a good person. Right in the eyes, I am a good person. If you do it every day, which might seem a bit strange at first, it might seem quite difficult at first, but you get into it and it does start to get easier. The novelty of the silliness and the ideas of it starts to wear off, and it starts to become more serious. And you mean it when you've done it enough times. You will mean it when you say eventually, I am a good person, and you will mean it. And that, it is a nice little exercise, it does make a difference. The third thing I want to talk about is body language. Body language is extremely important within psychology. Our mind and body, for years, we've always assumed was something separate, and of course it isn't. Our mind is part of our body is part of our mind. If there's something that your body is doing, it sends signals to your mind. If there's something that the mind is doing, it sends signals to the body. This is what the brain and body does. If you associate a particular movement or a particular position with an emotion, you will more likely draw yourself towards that emotion by being in that particular posture, for example. And we know from research after research after research that if you slouch like this, your confidence will drop. If you strike a pose like this, which is a little bit over the top, but your confidence will rise. It sounds silly. You've recently had a job interview and you got a job. There was some research done into job interviews in these positions. I forget which university it was a couple of years ago now. What they did, and they took blood tests as well, because they wanted to test for cortisol levels and testosterone. Cortisol responsible for the fight or flight response and dealing with, I'm stressed. Immune system drops when you produce cortisol, which is what can make people ill. Now, what they did, all you had to do for 2 minutes before going into a job interview was to have one of two. It was a fake interview; it wasn't a real thing, but they set it up. The people doing the interviewing didn't know what group these people were in, because there were 2 groups. One, for 2 minutes, had to be in what would be called what's called a negative pose, slumped. Might sit in the chair sort of like this, and they just sit there for 2 minutes like that, or hold themselves like this, just for 2 minutes. Then they go to the job interview. The other group stand there like that, or lean on a desk like this. Just for 2 minutes, that's all they had to do. Then they went in for a job interview. across the board, the interviewers were all saying, depending on who they would hire, well, it would be that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Always, it was the people that have been doing the positive poses. It sounds a bit silly, but our brain listens to what our body is doing. And we do associate that with feeling a bit low and a bit down and a bit nervous or apprehensive. So if we spend a bit of time just standing upright, there was some other research into mental arithmetic. Often whenever there's psychological research, they use mental arithmetic. Don't know about anybody else, but that's one of my weaknesses. Mental arithmetic is not my strong point. As is a lot of people, you give them lots of sums to do, that's when they're going to start getting stressed and start producing cortisol. So, one group that put them into these positions, sit up straight, and they force them with certain chairs. You sit up straight, and they do these mental arithmetic tests, and they rate how difficult they found them, how comfortable and confident they were about dealing with the sums and things like that. The other group, again, slumped over like this, leaning forward in their chair so that they were doing these sums. Across the board, the ones that were upright were the ones that scored higher, felt more confident about the sums, simply because they were in a different position. Can I borrow your pen?
You can.
Here's a really strange bit of research. I don't want to use it, I don't want to write with it. I have a pen because there was some research done into, again it was into body language and certain muscle groups of the face. I forget which ones these are called. They have a particular name, I don't know. What are these muscles called?
Is it
Maxofacial, something like that, yeah. And the corrugator muscles of the forehead. What they wanted to do, because you can't lead people, what they wanted to do is to see, does smiling make you happy? We all know that when we're happy, we smile. But does it work the opposite way around? Do we get happier when we smile? If you force a smile, will it make us happier? Well, it's difficult in psychology to do these tests because you're leading people. What they did is they gave them a cartoon to look at. It was the Far Side cartoons by, what's the guy's name? Larson. Very strange, surreal sort of comics and very odd. You either get them or you don't, and yeah, it's funny, kind of. To say, I want you to smile while you look at this and rate how funny you think it is, it's obvious you're leading them in the right direction, hence the pen. First group had to hold it in their teeth. Forcing their face into a smile, using these muscles here. The other group had to hold it in the lips. Wow. Forcing them into a bit of a sad face. Again, across the board, the ones that were using these muscles and forcing their face into a smile found the cartoons funnier. They rated themselves as a happier person just because they put a pencil in their teeth, like that, for about 10 minutes or however long they were doing it for, looking at these cartoons. So body language is subtle, very, very subtle. It's not always about chin up and looking up and things like that. Although I had a client a couple of years ago whose only homework after one session was to look for clouds and chimneys. She was a bit of a nervous character, and I said, I want you to go out, just spend the day, you don't have to talk to anybody, you don't have to make contact with any strangers, as we would talk about eventually in a therapy that she would, but just look for clouds and chimneys. Okay, so she just went off looking for clouds and chimneys. She came back and I said, so how's your week been? I've been counting and looking up at clouds and chimneys and things. Not sure why you wanted me to do it. How have you been feeling when you've been out? I've been feeling good. Yeah, I've been feeling quite good when I've been going out because her chin was up. She was looking up. Because all the time in the past she would walk around like this, staring at her feet, trying to get out of everybody's way. No, I don't want to be in anybody's way. Well, no, she was aware that by looking up, she was aware she wasn't in anybody's way. Everybody else is just getting on with their life, and she was looking up and seeing the world and seeing the architecture and the birds and clouds and chimneys. And just from keeping her head held high made a massive difference. Anecdotal research, I know, and I'm quite interested in proper research rather than just go up and keep your chin up and see how you feel. But this happens a lot. I get this happening a lot, where if you keep your chin up, you start to feel better about yourself. So body language is massively important. Oh, I was going to mention about the cortisol and testosterone stuff. You know that test they did when they were out to the job interview? They took blood tests before and after. Those that for 2 minutes have been doing the confident poses, like this, their testosterone levels, which are responsible for feelings of empowerment and control and feeling strong. This was in women as well. This isn't just testosterone; isn't just a male hormone. That went up by, I did write it down actually. I forget how many picograms it was. Let's have a look. 8 picograms per millilitres. But the nervous body language made it drop by 6. So it's not as if, oh, you're doing something that will make you feel better. Doing something else will also make you feel worse, so that will drop your testosterone levels, and it is responsible for something good. And the same with cortisol as well. If those that were doing that didn't have as much cortisol because they didn't feel that stressed, and those that were doing that, their cortisol levels went up because they were generating the fight or flight response, generating adrenaline and so on. And lastly, this is the put that down. This is the tricky one. Is to make an inventory of yourself, of your strengths and your weaknesses. You get an A4 piece of paper and you just split it in half. On one side you list 10 of your strengths, on the other side 10 of your weaknesses. No matter how silly those strengths might be, list them, because I'm sure that you'd find weaknesses that were silly. If you've got a weakness, oh yeah, but I'm not a very good daughter, I'm not a very good husband, or whatever. I'm not a very good husband because I didn't do the washing up. I didn't do the washing up, I'm lazy. You'd soon find reasons to find weaknesses in yourself. So go to the same extremes for your strengths. Oh, I had a coffee with somebody last week and they said thank you for listening because I was there for them when they needed me. Well, I'm a good listener. I'm a good friend. Find as many of your strengths as you can get. If you get 10 of each, then you can see evidence there. I have strengths and I have weaknesses. Well, you can look at those weaknesses eventually and realise they're not really that much of an issue. Whereas these strengths are something to be proud of, and those are just being human. Well, actually, I should be a fairly well-rounded, normal person, aren't I? Yes, actually, I'm better than some people. I'm far better than lots of people. And eventually your self-esteem grows and grows and grows and grows. Now, the reason I talk about this within hypnotherapy is because hypnosis makes everything work a little bit quicker. We were doing a little bit of a meditation exercise earlier on, and the similarities between that and hypnosis are profound. It's very much the same sort of thing. Meditation is when you can, obviously, what we were doing earlier, where you go into yourself and you become more aware of your body and so on. Hypnosis is when you're doing that, but with an extra purpose. You're using your imagination a lot more. You're picturing things. So if you can use meditation, you can definitely use hypnosis. If you're going for maybe it's a job interview or there's something you're preparing to do, if you close your eyes and go into that frame of mind where your body is a little bit more relaxed, mind is a bit more focused, and you picture what it is that you want to see happen, and you picture the steps in between. Now, the steps in between are quite important, because often what we can find is that if we're looking for a feeling, and we want to be happy, so I will imagine doing that thing that's going to make me happy, because we think that it's that goal that's going to make it happen. We are actually, silly as it sounds, less likely to reach that goal. People often say, if you've got a goal, picture it in your mind. Picture that goal in your mind and you're more likely to achieve it. That's actually not true. No research has backed that up whatsoever. Any self-help books that say that, they're really just copying that from another self-help book who didn't do the research. What tends to happen is that people don't achieve that goal because by the time they've thought about it enough times, they've realised they don't need to. If they think that that goal is going to make them happy, by simply imagining that goal, they imagine being happy. And it's the imagining being happy that makes people go, well, I don't need that goal anymore, I'm already happy. So if there is a goal that you've got, say for example, you want to run a half marathon or something like that, it's a little bit unrealistic, but there are steps in between. And if one of those first steps is, well, I've got to buy some new running shoes, or I've got to go out and run for 5 minutes. Okay, well, you imagine that. And once you've been doing that for a couple of weeks, you can run 6 minutes, and run 7, and run 8, and run 9. And if there's something that you want to do and it's within your capabilities, you can eventually get to that goal. But it's important to look at those steps in between. Absolutely important. So, your homework is to practice some of these breathing exercises that we were doing earlier on with the meditation. Absolutely invaluable. We were talking earlier on about breathing in, using the very bottom of your lungs. Absolutely paramount for combating the production of cortisol, the fight or flight response. Using the bottom of your lungs gets the oxygen molecules into your bloodstream so much quicker, so your heart rate slows down. Your body doesn't have to work so hard. It's absolutely invaluable that you do that. Don't do that. Don't just do that for meditation. Just do it anyway. I give people that as homework after their therapy sessions to do it every hour. Once an hour, take a few deep breaths. Every waking hour. Don't get up in the middle of the night just to breathe. You're probably breathing fine when you're asleep anyway. But whilst you're awake, every hour, just take your thoughts to your breathing and practice that you're using the bottom of your lungs rather than the top half. And believe me, your body will thank you for it. How much of those at these exercises, which you will get a little handout. I'll give you all of these that I'll be speaking about today. You can have a copy. As many of those that are appropriate, do them. They do make a massive amount of difference. But certainly spend some time looking after yourself, putting yourself first. As anybody who takes an aeroplane flight will always hear, whenever there's a safety announcement and they talk about, in the event of a problem, oxygen masks will fall. Those with children, please put them on yourself first. Because if you can't look after you, then you can't look after anybody. So it's important to always put yourself first. So here endeth that lesson. And I hope to come back again and talk about something similar another time.
Fantastic. Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much.
much, Richard.
Thank you.
It was excellent and just perfect. Perfect timing. So,
Well, I'll try to keep it into 10 minutes. I could waffle on for hours. I'll give everybody a copy of
Richard,
that.
could I just ask you a question? I
Yeah.
know we briefly kind of talked a little bit about it yesterday,
Uh-huh.
but you was on about how powerful the mind really is as
Yeah.
far as muscles concerned, about the exercise, and I just think that's quite important for people to realise
Yeah,
how
there was a,
powerful it is.
I'm quite keen on research. If something hasn't been backed up by certain experiments, and I know that doesn't always fit in with a lot of what the cottage says, because a lot of the time the cottage is based around the ideas of but it just works. I always find it hard to accept that something just works. I want to know why. I want to know how, and I want to make sure that if something does work, is there something else that works even better because of whatever it is that's making that work. So I do like to look at research. There is some very bizarre research into using your imagination and building muscle. Sounds really strange, but we know that from imagining exercising, your body will start to produce the same chemicals as if you've done the exercise for real. It seems really strange to imagine exercising, and it actually has a change, an effect upon your body, but it does. There was two major bits of research. One was it's always students, because it's always psychology universities that do these, so they get a load of students in and go, right, can you take part? So it's always a very limited, it's always people between the age of 18 and 24, but still, it works for this. Split up into three groups. First group, they said, I want you to use a hip flex weight machine. I want you to use it every day for a month, for 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. And then we're going to test how much stronger your legs are at the end of the month. Another group was to do nothing, just carry on being a student, just carry on doing what they normally did. And the third group was to imagine doing the exercises. Just go to bed, close your eyes, and imagine for 2 minutes that you're on. They showed them how the machine worked and so on. Ask them to imagine using the machine. Now, the people who carried on doing no more extra exercise, their strength didn't go up at all. They stayed exactly the same. The ones that had done the real exercises, their strength had gone up by 28%. Wow, fantastic. Bit of exercise makes your strength go up. But the ones that were doing it in just their imagination, their strength went up 24%. Not quite as much as the 28% of the other group, but they hadn't done anything. They had done nothing other than use their imagination. They just closed their eyes and imagined exercising, and their brain was sending signals to their body that said, do this. So using your imagination in the right way, use it for you instead of against you. If you're doing something bad with your imagination, for example, it could be leading your body down the whole wrong path. Make sure you're doing the right thing in your mind. The other exercise, the other bit of research was the strength of somebody's little fingers. That didn't have quite as much success. The exercises, I think it went up 12%, the ones that were doing it for real, and it was 8% for the ones doing it in their imagination. Because they're smaller muscles. But it still went up. Just from using their imagination, just the power of the mind. If your mind can make you ill, then your mind can make you better. That's my thoughts on it. Okay.
yes.
Brilliant.
Thank you for
some bombs. Oh, it's an absolute pleasure.
putting that in as well, because you know,
I typed all that up.
this is really everything
My cheesy face on it as well.
that we cover, isn't it? On a physical, emotional,
sorry,
mental,
I'll give
and
you two.
spiritual level.
Oh no, that's it.
And the fact that everything is connected, everything interconnects and interrelates, and it's
Here you go.
and I'd like one as well, please, just for the record. So
It's got my cheesy face on it.
how can we ever forget you, Rich? Yeah,
a lot of this information we've probably heard before at some point.
Thanks.
And
I'm joking.
But that's the point, isn't it? We forget. We get caught up in a habitual process of thinking about something else, or something else is featuring in our lives, where that's where our focus is, and we forget all the techniques and tools that actually inherently we do know. We do know, because what Richard has said, you know, there's been things in there where I thought, oh yeah, I need to bring that back into my practice, into my way of thinking, because it's something that I've let slip because I've been focusing more on this area. But actually, for the balance, I need to have that in place as well to make it really strong and powerful in the way that I engage with people. So thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, right. Moving on, and I shall just
Oh, yeah, video.